There's no denying that I was not a fan of the last ASUS ROG Flow that was sent to me last year to test out. The 13-inch notebook was mediocre with loud fans, a dull display, and of course you needed an external GPU to turn it into a gaming notebook. I get it, the tech is cool, but who in the world would spend money on it? To carry around a giant eGPU and a notebook at the same time makes very little sense to me. Not to mention the bloated price tag for both pieces of tech makes it cheaper and easier just to buy a powerful gaming notebook. The new ASUS ROG Flow Z13 is now a tablet, and while much of my criticism remains the same for the device, I kind of loved spending time with it. The ASUS ROG Z13 is hands down the most powerful tablet you can get on the market. It doubles up as a hybrid notebook thanks to its detachable keyboard, and turns into a dedicated gaming notebook thanks to the AMD Radeon RX 6850M XT eGPU. Inside the tablet itself, you'll find some impressive tech too that includes an Intel Core i9-12900H, an NVIDIA RTX 3050 Ti, 16GB of RAM, and a 512GB SSD. The tablet itself boasts a 13-inch 16x10 1080p display with a 120Hz refresh rate. It is a tablet, which means you can also use up to 10 fingers on the display to get around. The panel itself isn't remotely impressive. It uses an IPS panel, which means it doesn't get as bright as tablets should get, and the black levels aren't the best due to the always on black light. You can get a 4K 60Hz version of this tablet too though, if you're looking for a higher resolution. Here are the official specs for the Flow Z13 tablet on its own. Here are the official specs for the ASUS XG Mobile eGPU. Keep in mind that this device is completely optional, but for the sake of this review we are testing it as a bundle. You can see from the specs that there's a lot to unpack here with the ASUS ROG Flow Z13 itself. The tablet is pretty cool to hold and feels sturdy and premium. ASUS has really put a lot of effort into this device to make it feel expensive, and you can see the small details across it that scream this. The tablet, when detached from the keyboard, is quite bulky but expected given the specs inside of the device. On the top there's some vents and the Republic of Gamers logo, and at the bottom you'll find a magnetic connector for the detachable keyboard. In terms of the ports, on the left you'll find one USB-C port and the eGPU port for the XG Mobile. On the right there's a USB Type-A port and audio combo. There's also a power button and volume rocker, two much needed features on a tablet like this. ASUS has pulled a Nintendo and hit the microSD card reader behind the kickstand. It is nicely tucked away from view too. I really enjoy the design from the ASUS ROG Flow Z13, I especially like the engravings on the metal chassis. These indicate where the ports are and what tech is underneath that specific part of the shell. For example, there's even a small little compartment that shows you where the SSD expansion slot is. There's also two speaker blocks to show where the sound will come out of. It is almost as if the internal hardware lives on the outside shell. ASUS has even put a glass window on the back that includes RGB. This window gives you a sneak peek at the main board on the device and the 12th gen CPU die. The kickstand is also sturdy and easy to use. The hinges are of high quality too and look great when they're opening. There's a thin red piece of rubber to indicate where to pull the kickstand open and closed. As for the keyboard, it is decent and beats most tablet keyboard accessories on the market. The chiclet keys make it all feel like a standard notebook experience when typing. There's also RGB, which is cool for a detachable accessory. I did wish the touchpad was a little bit larger, but hey, you can only squeeze so much into this tiny little detachable keyboard. Then we have the optional XG Mobile eGPU. This is a large black box that houses the AMD RX 6850M. There isn't much to look at here when it comes to the design. The box packs a range of ports on the back that expand what's on offer when plugged into the notebook, or well, the tablet in this case. The cable on the other end is specifically made for the ROG Flow notebooks. The cable on the other end is specifically made for ROG Flow notebooks and is a combination of a PCIe port and a USB-C port. Together, this device is capable of sending GPU power to the notebook. It also has a kickstand that unfolds outward so you can prop it up next to the tablet when you're using it. On the other end there are a few vents and an LED lit fan because it is a gaming tablet after all, and this is a gaming mobile eGPU, so you have to have RGB. I also need to mention the SD slot reader at the top of the eGPU. While the Flow Z13 packs a micro SD slot, the XG Mobile is a large SD slot. You can also use the XG Mobile eGPU laying down or standing up, so it all depends on how your gaming setup is laid out. General performance on the ASUS ROG Flow Z13 was fantastic. The combination of the Core i9 and RTX 3050 Ti meant that daily use of this tablet held up well. It also helps that the display is decent, making it a joy to work on. Sure, the 13 inches isn't ideal for what I do, but most people looking for a compact tablet hybrid will feel fine here. While the display is an IPS panel, it manages to pump out the max brightness of 540 nits, which is enough for the average room lighting. It doesn't have the best coverage around. I only measured 98.2 sRGB and 70% Adobe RGB. There's also 73% DCI-P coverage. Ideally, this panel isn't great for design, but everything else should be fine. For the sake of this review, I wanted to test out the pure power of the Z13 itself and then compare it to the added performance of the XG Mobile GPU. Mainly because the Z13 is a pretty powerful tablet on its own, so it will be interesting to see how it holds up. The RTX 3050 Ti is a Max Q variant and runs at 35 watts but can be boosted up to 40 watts using dynamic boost. ASUS has also included MUX to the tablet, which might boost performance slightly too. I can't get inside this device to show you what it looks like due to its build design. The closest you will get to the internals is by removing the M.2 bay to upgrade the SSD. Keep in mind that this slot is compatible with 2030 SSDs only. This might make it a costly upgrade compared to buying a 2280 SSD.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Without the optional XG Mobile eGPU, the tablet is limited to 100 watts of power through the USB-C port when gaming. The ASUS ARM Recreate then let me toggle between the various settings to bypass the RTX 3050 Ti and only use the Intel Iris Xe. Generally, you would want to keep this in eco mode and only use the Iris Xe when not gaming. You would then switch to the GPU MXU mode to make use of the RTX 3050 and disable the integrated GPU. The CPU power on this tablet is also limited, mainly due to the design of the chassis. At 50 watts, the CPU only runs at about 70% of its performance. It is still quite impressive for a tablet. This performance is determined by the power setting I chose. Turbo mode is the best for gaming here, as the 3050 Ti can go up to 40 watts while the CPU can stay at 35 watts. This tablet is all about understanding the thermal limitations in combination with the power restrictions on offer. Here are some of the tests I ran while using the dedicated RTX 3050 Ti on turbo mode, and some CPU tests I ran too. We then have the ASUS ROG XG Mobile. This AMD RX 6850 GPU is undoubtedly better than using the dedicated RTX 3050 Ti, but you have to slog through the setup to make this possible. The eGPU plugs into the tablet on the XG Mobile port and is enabled through the ASUS ARM Recreate. Once enabled, all GPU power is sent to the XG Mobile, completely bypassing the Intel Iris Xe and the 3050 Ti. Here are some of the tests I ran using this external GPU.
Sound right, boy.
Fans on the tablet itself were pretty loud during tests. With that being said, they weren't as annoying as other notebooks I have reviewed in the past. Yes, they are noticeable, but not annoying. As for the heating, the notebook itself maxed out at 75 degrees Celsius during tests. It wasn't hotter than say any other gaming notebook, but this tablet is a tablet, so you need to remember how to handle it when it is hot. Speaking of heat, the Flow Z13 handles its heat dissipation quite well. It never reached higher than 50 degrees Celsius during general use of the tablet. When using the XG Mobile, this dropped it down to further 35 degrees. You'll probably never hold this tablet while gaming, but it's nice to know it doesn't get too hot.
It sound right, boy.
So in the end, I both loved and hated the Flow Z13. As a tablet, it is very bulky, and while the design packs some cool features like the RGB back glass, it simply isn't practical as a tablet due to its thick and bulky build. Battery life on tablets is also supposed to be great due to the fact that you're meant to be carrying them around with you everywhere. The Flow Z13 can't manage more than 6 hours even if you push the brightness down and disable the 3050 Ti. It's just not ideal for being a tablet. We then have the XG Mobile, which is just the real chore to use. Sure, it is powerful, but it just adds too many wires and mess into the mix to play on a tiny 13-inch display. Sure, you can output this to a larger display through the Flow itself, but when does this experience become more work than it's worth? I love ASUS for going to the extent they have to make the most powerful tablet, and if you're looking for a gaming tablet, this is it, and the only one you can probably get. But the XG Mobile is more trouble and cost than it's worth. Gamers want simplicity, well I do anyway, and the whole experience is simply too much effort for me. I'd rather build a PC or get a notebook. The all-in-one package makes a lot more sense. So that's my thoughts on the ASUS ROG Flow Z13 and the XG Mobile. Are you looking to pick these devices up? Let us know in the comments down below. As always, please do like and subscribe, and visit www.glitchedonline for more gaming, tech, and pop culture news, and until next time, farewell.